Hello and welcome back. MC1 Gamer here, bringing you some more updates on the new General's Handbook 2017. It's going to be available on pre-order coming up this coming weekend. And there's a whole bunch of information that we've been getting, leaks almost every other day. Well, I wouldn't call them leaks. I'd call them more of of sneak peeks. But the idea is that a lot of this stuff has been really very much rooted into the match play environment, the competitive play environment. And it brings me back to when Age of Sigmar first came out. When Age of Sigmar first launched, there was no match play. It was all open play. And a lot of us who were there at start, who were advocates from the very beginning, who were trying to figure out this game and seeing where it was going to go early on, and were invested and took the dive in, just jumped in with both feet. A lot of us were trying to figure out, different methods of play before the General's Handbook came out, and there were different, three defined methods of play. There are plenty of people that are trying to run events where they were looking for methods on how they can incorporate matched play, competitive type play formats, and some of them were pretty ingenious. But they didn't really quite always work. Things like war scrolls or some figuring out how to do points and whatnot. Everybody was playing open play at that time. So up until again the GHB or some of these other efforts, it was really just all open play and just figuring out how that would work. And a lot of the events that I had run were trying to create some kind of a story. So they were a narrative type environment where each game was the next chapter in a tale that the event was running. And it was a challenge. There was certainly some interesting ways that I was trying to run it, and I had seen other people trying to run events to try to incorporate something different, really trying to figure out which way you wanted to go, trying to not do the same thing that people have done with events in the past. And there was some great innovation. So when the General's Handbook came out, obviously most of us gravitated towards match play. I think by the very nature of having a structured environment, and countering some of the questions about AOS when it first came out, and even some of the criticisms that it lacked a lot of structure or sufficient structure, that really was addressed. But the thing that really made me happy was that they also included this narrative play environment in the GHB, and the fact that it's coming out even further fleshed out in the next one is great, because some of us who try to use our imagination to figure out these types of gameplay or really are interested in this type of gameplay. Certainly, myself, many people like me who will have experimented with it, but it's really great to have something built and designed and supported by the people who have been designing this game, who have been running, who work at Games Workshop and understand this game. And whether or not you put an overlay on top of it and expand upon it down the road, that's up to you. But it's great to have a launch pad, especially considering that there's a lot of new people that are jumping on the AOS bandwagon, whether they're transplants from other games, like maybe they're 40K players that never tried AOS before, or even fantasy, whether they're coming from other game systems, whether they left the game when it changed over to Age of Sigmar and are now coming back. But I see a lot of new people coming on board that are completely brand new to Warhammer in general. Maybe they flirted a little bit with some of the box games back in the day, and maybe they even dabbled a little bit with 40K, but the fantasy environment is completely fresh to them, and they're coming in. And I've been seeing a lot of interest in there. I've helped run and I've seen run at a number of the local stores. I'm lucky enough to be one of those people that have a good saturation of stores, and just within reasonable driving distance, because I live in the Northeast. And the narrative play has been something that is caught on pretty well. It's not taken the stores by storm, but there's a healthy amount of people that want to play some of these types of game structures, whether they're campaign structures or just go right out of the book. So the fact that we're getting more narrative play, I think, is really going to appeal to not a small segment of the hobby and Age of Sigmar enthusiasts. So let's take a look at what some of the information that has been sneak peeked has been unveiled for us this past day. And we'll just take a look at it here. I mean, we got some cute pictures, but obviously there's going to be several scenarios. But let's go ahead and jump in. So we have here, it says the moral realms are immensely varied, and thanks to new time of war rules, you'll be able to reflect this on the tabletop in exciting new ways. If you know what time of war rules are, they are very narrative. You can actually utilize them even, I think, in match play games, but they really fit well with a narrative play type structure. And they have overall rules that will affect the game, that affect the table. Each realm has an associated spell with any wizards fighting in it and can cast, as well as several unique effects. Battles on the shores of the gnawing sea and Gur force players to fight around wild beasts. Try it out on your own game table within the rules below. So let's take a look at this one. This one, and of course, it's a little cut off here, so it's a little hard to read, but let's see if we can figure this out. So it says monstrous beast. When you set up your army, you can also set up a monster that is not part of your army, known as a monstrous beast. Each monster must contain a single monster. Each beast must contain a single monster mono. It does not count as part of any player's army and does not cost any points. So just to paraphrase here, you will have environmental effects. The environmental effects could be lava pools. It could be environmental things like the weather. It could be a sea structure. It could be a moving plane or a moving atmospheric type thing. But it also could be creatures on the battlefield that are not owned or controlled necessarily by any individual person. And they're perilous things that you have to either avoid or overcome in terms of gaining victory or moving forward and getting certain types of benefits. And there are also things that can happen, like was just mentioned in the text, where maybe wizards have extra access to spells. There could be artifacts. If you achieve certain goals, you might be able to attain artifacts. There are various different types of conditions. So it's not just a lineup and battle. There's a story to be told, not just on the battlefield, but they can actually be strung together to create a narrative. All right, so moving on, what we have here, it says, yes, here we go. The rules aren't just for narrative play games, and Times of War are easily usable in match play. This is what I just mentioned just a second ago, and are tactically challenging as well as fun and thematic. So, by the way, I highly encourage you, if you're playing just vanilla match play, rolling your dice for the scenario in the book, whether it's the first General's Handbook or even the one that's coming out, there are some really good scenarios that you can adapt to match play from a variety of source books that have come out since the launch of Age of Sigmar. But one of the really cool things to incorporate is this time of war, because anytime you incorporate something, you put something into your gameplay that creates another level of tactical evaluation, something where you have something you achieve that's different than just the 3 places of power or the comet falling down at in any one of the 3 board areas on your side. These types of things, maybe they can get a little bit stale after a while, even with 6 more coming up with a new book. But you can have the same mission and throw in something specific like a time of war set of rules, and it can change the game completely. You could have changing the variety of those. You could play the same scenario and it won't be the same game twice in a row. So I highly recommend trying that and experimenting with it like they're recommending here. There's also the battle plans. This is great. There's loads of new battle plans for narrative play games. Now, these always don't work well with a match play environment. Sometimes they encourage a mismatched or imbalanced type of a format, which I happen to like to play, and I really enjoy playing that prior to GHB 1, but it's not going to fit with a easily. You could find a way to adapt it, but it's not going to fit easily with a match play environment, because really there you're trying to incorporate some kind of balance. But some of these battle plans, are really interesting and quite fun. So here we create exciting battles packed with dramatic moments. We've taken these from the Realm Gate Wars book and adapted them to allow any army to take part. These include Against the Horde, which pits a force of guerrilla fighters against an enormous combined force in a desperate mission of assassination, while to bind the storm turns every single hero in your army into a lightning-wielding wizard battling to defend or destroy a mighty edifice. And this is exactly what they just described here is exactly what I'm saying. I mean, I ran an event at one point where I really try to take, and I use this so much that people actually start making fun of me about it. But I use the Battle of Thermopylae and the Last Stand of the 300 as an example of how you can create a battle scenario where you have a really outmatched force against an overwhelming horde, and have that be fun and impactful and still be challenging without it being too fluffy, where it's not a competitive game. You can make that a competitive environment, and whether or not you're doing narrative or match play, you can adapt that. But in a match play environment, that is immensely fun. There's something gratifying about playing that the underpowered and overmatched force and being able to hold out. Maybe there's a scenario where your ability to delay that force for enough turns impacts the next game. That's the kind of way these narrative games work. And while I'm just kind of like spitballing with the ideas that I've used in the past, I'm really interested in seeing how they incorporate that here, because the idea of something like this would be great. It would also be great to play the overwhelming horde and see if you can stamp out your enemy in 1 or 2 turns. But I really love this idea of every single hero being able to tap into some kind of a power and generate that power. You could take some really wimpy or really weak heroes and have abundance of them and just have an amazing array of it could be a lot of fun to do that in a single session. Absolutely. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that turns out. Siege battles are new to warplay, new to play in Warhammer Age of Sigmar, and I am looking forward to this because I just remember the old siege rules with castles, and I have plenty of terrain for that stuff that I've built or mashed up or 3D printed. But there's also so much stuff that GW has provided us with, the Chaos Fortress and all the other initial terrain pieces that were released early on that could really make to look for a settlement. Whether you build it yourself, buy it from the official line, or find other sources. Either way, the idea of creating a siege with attackers and defenders is classic. It's just classic old school Warhammer. It's old school wargaming, and it's something I think everybody can identify with. So I'm really glad that they're creating battle plans that are kind of taking that into consideration. We've seen this before. It's not new, and it's not even new for Age of Sigmar, but more of it and more stuff to kind of play with is phenomenal. And I can see right off the bat, imagine defending a Quadrant Overlord skyport here, what they say, from an aerial assault from a pack of Terrorgeists. Wow, I cannot say enough about how much I want to play that. I don't know if I want to whether I want to play the defenders more than the attackers. I just a flight of Terrorgeists and vampire and zombie dragons and other flying creatures from the death line swirling around these skyports with all of these, with ironclads and frigates, maneuvering to defend. Who knows how big of a game this could be, but I can envision not just even one table doing this, but a whole series of tables all linked together, individual games, but creating a further narrative collectively, with just being part of one individual battle, and each table's win or victory or loss impacting the overall scenario for maybe the following round. There's so much you can do just by being a little bit creative here, but it's so great that they're giving us the initial stages, or even just using it right as they give us, to really play these incredibly interesting games. Here's another one where it's a wall of Sylvaneth wildwoods raised to halt a rampaging horde of Ironjaws. Yes, I can see that. I can see that, and I can see how much fun that would be. And again, I play the Sylvaneth. I played against a lot of Ironjaws, but I don't have that army. But again, that's another one where, like, I don't know which one I'd want to play more. I would want to play both of them. So yeah, I cannot wait to see the array of these types of scenarios that they're talking about here. So yeah, this is the kind of thing that I want to see more of. I'm so glad that they're further investing in this type of play style and giving us more options. It's really something to kind of spark the creative juices for people who want to create their own. But again, to have it in this book and having this book the way I envision it being, just another massive explosion of where Age of Sigmar is going. We've had a quiet period with 40K kind of dominating the release schedule and the dialogue, but now it seems like Age of Sigmar is going to kind of take the end of the year by storm in the last quarter of 2017. And I can just see this propelling the game even further along as far as growth is concerned, and an infusion of new players. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. Tell me what kind of things you're looking forward to. What kind of scenarios that are similar to this that you've not only maybe played at other other events or things that have been sponsored at your own local game store, or maybe at your own private game club, but maybe I'd like to hear some of the stories and ideas that you've come up with that maybe are being that maybe they're not completely unique, but what's your specific personal twist? And as always, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you the next time we get another little sneak peek. Thanks. Have a great day, everybody.